13 years old. He's back this year, he's 87. Obviously, he just comes down here. But what an amazing place. What an amazing place. And listen, I must tell you this. They talk about this place being a crown jewel. My dad will tell you, my granddad will tell you, they would, those drivers back then, and even my dad and Pearson and all those guys up until probably the mid-70s, would rather win Darlington, and especially the Southern 500 to win the Daytona 500. This was the race they wanted to win, because this was the race they saw Fireball win. This was the race they saw Dad. This is the race they saw their heroes win. So this was the place, and that's why you can't overstate the history and what this place means to our sport. Now, one time, I don't know if y'all remember this, once upon a time, this sport got really stupid. And they moved this race to California. Y'all remember that? Holy shit, pardon the expression. I don't know what they were thinking. You know what I mean? I don't know what they were thinking. But they got smart and they moved back, so there you go, I'm sorry. I know it's Sunday, I should have Holy poop, I'm sorry, poop.
Man, we were pretty pissed off about that.
There we go. That's all, man. We're retiring right after this.
I'll tell you right now.
I got that same suit, and that's no joke. I got that same suit, dude.
There you go.
Yeah. And I like it. I like it.
There you go. Makes you thirsty.
Yeah, always for a Coke.
You know, the one thing, Colin, you've had a lot of success in NASCAR. And you won some races. You had a tough time, a challenging time here in Darlington to the point where you wanted them to fill it up with water and make it a fish pond.
Hold on. You got to be old like me. There was a beer commercial on TV, okay, at the time. I don't even remember what kind of beer it was. And one of the commercials was it showed a guy drinking beer, watching like the Olympics. And he's sitting there and he's drinking beer and he's watching the Olympics. And he pulls the handle on the side of the recliner, and it reclines, and it shows him going over a ski jump. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if y'all remember this commercial. It's an old commercial. It's an old commercial. So it combined drinking, a lounge chair, and ski jumping. And I thought there was nothing better than to fill this place up and have stadium bass fishing. You know what I mean? I mean, think about it. You sell out the grandstands on the front stretch. You got bass boats running all over everywhere, running into each other. You got a weigh in. You got so much stuff going on. And to say that I didn't have any success here, or I would just say I was crap here. That's an easier way to put it. I was terrible here. I ran good 2 races in my whole career. One was when I came back after I broke my leg at Talladega. I set out for 4 or 5 months, and I came back here and I ran pretty good. I think we finished mid, 4th, 5th, 6th, something like that. But other than that, that's the only time I ever saw the checkered flag. I got a Darlington stripe all the way around this dang place.
There you go. How about that? Hey, you know, we look at these young fellas out here who are racing today that started when they
Children. They're not young fellas, they're children.
Children.
Yeah, they've not reached adulthood yet.
You got your first start. Basically, you were old enough to vote by the time you got your first start, or 18.
18. Yeah, my dad wouldn't let me race. And I tell this story all the time. So I wanted to, from the time I was little, I just wanted to be a race car driver. But I would go to the race shop and they wouldn't let me even set in a race car. I could sweep the floor. They let me eventually magnify parts and sandblast and paint, become a mechanic, or become a fabricator, work in the engine room, in the body shop. But I couldn't get in a race car. They wouldn't let me get in a race car. My mom wanted me to go to college. Okay. So, and eventually, I did go to night school. Okay. I went to night school. It's a true story. I went to night school for like 4 days. True story. And the lady that ran the night school, it was a business school, she called my mom, and my mom, she would give back all the money that we had paid, because my mom had the stinky kid at school. I smelled like lacquer thinner and Bondo when I came in, because I was working in the body shop. And I wouldn't take a bath before I went to school. My mom sent me to school. What do you think my mom sent me to school to be? What do you think my mom wanted me to be?
Business.
What?
Business.
My mom wanted me to be a pharmacist. Okay, I grew up to look like a drug dealer, but I'm not a pharmacist. Okay? You got me? Alright? So, I talked my dad into let me drive a race car, so he took me to Daytona, and that's the first race I ever raced. The first time I ever crawled in a race car was at Daytona. He took me to Daytona. So that's where I started. And I ran one ARCA race and probably a couple of dirt tracks. And the first year, when I was 18 years old, that first year I ran 8 races, I think. One ARCA race, 2 dirt tracks, and 5 cup races. And that's how I started. So I started in the deep end of the pool.
Man, I'll tell
It
you
was
right
crazy.
now.
I think my dad was trying to get rid of me.
You're quite outspoken in our world of NASCAR, a voice that we obviously need. And you see a lot of things that we think. And you speak about a lot of things on the broadcast side that we think. How cool is that? That maybe, do you ever think that I'm the voice of that fan?
No, I honestly, I thank you for that. And I don't try to be, I will say this, I'll take this straight. And I think Mike Helton was supposed to be here. So I had this conversation with Mike Helton one day. I don't try to go against the grain or be contrary. I honestly don't. It's just that I have honestly, and I heard you guys talking about, I was born in June of 1960. I'm 64 years old. I was born in June. I went to my first race at Daytona in July of 1960. And I went twice a year, every year, except for 65 when my dad boycotted. I've never missed a race in Darlington. I've never missed a race in Darlington since I've been born. I've never, just here all the time. Martinsville, the same thing. Charlotte, the same thing. So many races. So when you see so much, your perspective on the sport and your perspective on things are different. And the sport's a funny sport. Something that happened in 64 will happen again. You know what I mean? And something you try to make your car run better that happened in 69 or 75 might not work. It'll work in 85 and it worked in 2010. It's a cyclical sport. But I told Mike one day, we were talking and Mike said, why do you hate NASCAR so much? And I said, I don't hate NASCAR. And he said, yes you do. He said, no matter what we do, you question it. And I said, well that's true. That's true. And I said, I love y'all. I love this sport. I love walking in that garage area and talking to, I used to love coming in when I was a kid and talking to Bobby Isaac and Bobby Allison and Bonnet and those guys when I was 8 or 9 years old. Then Earnhardt and Terry Labonte and those guys when I got to race against them, and then this new crowd with Kyle Larson and Joey Logano, these guys. So I've grown up with a lot of different people. At one point I said, I love this sport. And I said, but I love y'all so much. It's kind of like being married for 75 years. Eventually, you can tell your wife if you're a guy, you know what, that dress fits your butt a bit. She knows you love her. She should know you love her. But it's okay to tell her that. So my point is, and I told him, I said, and he laughed, and he said, well, I still don't get it. I said, okay, let me explain to you this way. My granddad started racing in 1949. Okay? Bill France Sr. ran everything. And my granddad, through his entire career, even after one Daytona in 59, and they didn't declare him the winner, and it was 3 days before they declared him the winner, he felt like that Bill Frank Sr. was trying to screw him out of something. So my dad grew up for the next 40 or 50 years with Bill France Jr. And his whole career, he felt like that Bill France Sr. and NASCAR was trying to screw him out of something. So it's in my DNA. And when NASCAR does something, they're hosting somebody. And it's my job to figure out who they're trying to hoodoo right now. Okay? That's what I feel. I feel that responsibility. And Mike started laughing. He said, okay, that I understand. I do understand that. But you know what? I don't look at it that way. I got in an argument with a guy, with one of the hosts of a show on Sirius Radio. And we were having a good conversation. We got in an argument about the old car, and he referred to it as the old car. And we got to going back and forth about the old car. And we went to a commercial break, and in the middle of the commercial break, we realized I was talking about a 1974 Dodge Charger, a 1976 Monte Carlo, the 118-inch wheelbase, the 3,800-pound cars, the big cars. And he was talking about 1999. So we were arguing about two totally different things. But in my mind, that's the old car. That is the old car. You know, it's not a gen something. It's an old ass car. That's what it is. And that's what that was. So it's funny that I don't question things just a question. I'm questioning because I've seen something else in my history or in my lifetime where somebody else got hosed or messed up that way. That's a long answer, sorry.
You were absolutely marvelous. You know, a lot of us, how many of you grew up getting hand-me-down clothes? Hand-me-down clothes.
I got dresses. What y'all get?
Look, in my little research, and I've always followed the Petty family because I grew up watching the Fate 43, you know, him and Peterson going together as a kid. And the thing is, I started doing a little bit of research, and I noticed that Kyle Petty got hand-me-down race cars.
Oh yeah.
Dodge Magnums.
Yeah, I got hand-me-down. Those first 2 years, here's what my dad told me. So here's what would happen. So like if I was racing during this time, we run here and then we go to Atlanta. Okay? So if we ran together here, if my dad and I raced against each other here, then when we would go to Atlanta, then I would get the engine that he ran here. Okay? So they had a good 100 miles left of it. That's about it. And I don't know if y'all know, Atlanta's a 500-mile race. Okay? So I was sure not to finish the race. That's the way it was. But the point, so after about 6 or 7 of those, when I'm sitting in the garage area about an hour into the race, I asked my dad, I said, when am I going to get something good? And he said, well, here's the problem. Number one, you ain't as tough as us, and you ain't going to make it 500 miles. Number two, you just get brave enough at 100 miles to tear up a car, and I'd rather you tear up an engine than tear up a whole car. So when you learn to drive, and I think you learn to drive, then I'll give you engines and I'll let you run a little bit longer. And that's how it is. You look at my first year of cup racing, I think I ran, which would have been 79, 80, which would have been 80. I think I ran 18 races and blew up 16 times. That's no joke. I think I only finished like 2 races my first year. And the next year I only finished like half the races because we were still doing that. But and real quick, he started me in cup racing because that's where he wanted me to be. That's where he felt like, and that's what we did. That was our business. We were in the cup business. We were in the Xfinity business. There was no such thing as a truck business. So economics dictated that the wheels and the cars and the tires and the people that worked on the stuff, that worked on his stuff, that was good enough for him, that was good enough for me. And that's what we did. So that's how I started. That's so fast. It's just different. It's like growing up on a farm. You just follow in those footsteps and do the same thing.
You know, in a couple of minutes, we have remaining a couple of things. Number one, talking about him being outspoken, but he is one of the most charitable people you will ever meet in this industry and in the sporting industry with your rides and victory coaches, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I say this all the time. You know, and it's funny, you guys talk about generations, and I think about this a lot recently. And this is how life is. But my granddad started in 1949. He was 36 years old. He was later in life because there wasn't a sport. There wasn't NASCAR. My dad came along. He was 21 years old in 1958 and started. I started in 79, and then Adam came along in 98 and ran some Xfinity races. And then by the time we got to 2000, we were going to run some cup races. And it's funny, it's 2024. So Adam could quite possibly have a son, which would be a 5th generation to our family, if he had been here. But when this accident happened, we built a camp. We've been very blessed because of you guys. And I want to be real clear about this. I try to be as clear as I can. We had a tragedy in our life, and we raised our hand and said, we're going to build a camp. And people like you help build camp. And it's our job, me and mine, and you, it's our job to keep that camp running, because it's not our camp. It belongs to the kids. It belongs to their families. It's their camp. We are just caretakers. And y'all have been amazing caretakers. Amazing. Just in reaching out and volunteering and sending, blankets and teddy bears and things for these kids to have. It takes that much. It takes that much to change a child's life. And y'all have changed children's lives. Everybody who's ever been to camp or knows anything about camp, That's on y'all. That's not us. That's not our family. We were just in a position to be able to raise our hand and say, follow us, this is what we're going to do. And a lot of people did. And during that time, Kevin Harvick, Dale Jr., Michael Waltrip, Jeff Gordon, you go down the list, Danny Hamlin, go all the way down the list. These guys and these teams have been phenomenal. But it still boils down to you. Because if you guys don't buy tickets, if you guys don't come to the race, if you guys don't believe in what your drivers do and what these other people do, then there is nothing. And then for that, the kids, it's all back to them. So thank you guys. From my family to your family, thank you.
We thank you too, with the 30 seconds we have left.
Yeah.
You were a very instrumental part in the Wood Brothers getting 100 this past week. You had 2 wins.
Yeah. Well, so that's always I always like that because I am. No, don't brag about it. I am the last guy that's won more than one race for him. Okay, I will say that. And I am the last guy that stayed with him long enough to lose the most races for him. So you got to throw that in too. Okay, it's both sides of that coin. But I am going to tell you this, and next year is the racetrack 75th. Next year is the Wood Brothers 75th. It's their 75th also. Pearson and Kale and those guys in the Wood, they own this place, man. They own this place. When we used to come down here, man, there's so much pressure to do good for women, to do good for men, and Glenn and everybody, because they did. And I was so happy. And you know, and people in this day and time, let me say this, in this day and time, I want y'all to think about it, where, you know, Hendrick Motorsports has 600 or 700 employees and runs 4 cars, and they won 9 million races, and Gibbs has 3 or 4 cars, and they do all that stuff, and they won all those races, and we get so used to seeing those big numbers, 10 races a year, 200 or 400 races, 500 races that these teams have won. The Wood Brothers built the foundation for the sport. They are a cornerstone in the sport. They always will be. Forever, they only ran 10 or 12 races a year. 10 or 12 races a year is all they ever ran. They didn't run the full season like these other guys. They had a 10% chance of winning races because they were only running a limited number of races. Where Rick runs, you know, 4 times 36, he's got that many shots at it every week. And he's got 140 shots at it every year to win races, to add to his numbers. So what the Wood Brothers have accomplished in that period of time is greater than any other team, greater than Payne Enterprises, greater than Hendrick, greater than these other deals. And they did it with guys. I'm going to tell you this, and I did this, and I promise I'll get out of here. I won my first race. Dale Jarrett won his first race. Blaney won his first race. Trevor Bain won. Trevor Bain, Harrison Burton, and the great Tiny Lund won their very first race for the Wood Brothers, and they won it at Daytona. Okay? So there's 6 or 7 of us, Elliott Sadler, 6 or 7 of us that won our first race driving that Fame number 21 car. And there's 3 guys, okay? Cale Yarborough, Dan Gurney, and AJ Foyt. Every one of those guys won their second career cup race driving for the Wood Brothers. So I want you to think about that when you think about the drivers that these guys had to contribute. When Harrison Burton put his name on that list with AJ Foyt, and Dan Gurney, David Pearson, and Cale Yarborough, and Ryan Blaney, a champion in NASCAR, that's a huge moment. But the bigger moment is that the Wood Brothers are still here after 75 years, and they just passed their business on to the next generation. So that's cool. So thank you guys for having me. I hope you have a great day. I will say this. Last thing. This is, the drivers come in here and sat, like in this area. So if you have anything nasty you want to leave, any notes you want to leave for a driver, leave them in these first 3 or 4 rows over here. But you are going to have to leave this air conditioning at some point in time, okay? Because I'm going to tell you what, I have seen Kyle Busch throw people out of air conditioned buildings. Okay, I get it. All right, have fun. See ya.
Already